I'm Serena.
I'm Naima.
I'm Simia.
I'm Shreya.
And this is
Untold.
We've started our interview series and we want to get as many different voices onto our podcast as possible. So we're really, really glad that you're here with us today. Do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself so the listeners know who you are?
Okay. My name is Alice Mpofu-Coles. I was born in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. During the time, because I know you're doing series about different things, but I was born during the colonial times of Zimbabwe. I grew up in that time also. So I came to the UK in 2002. I've got two daughters, Tadi and Mimi. They're adults now.
Yeah.
I live in Reading, and currently I'm finishing my PhD. My thesis is mainly about young people, identity, and transnational activities. And I'm an activist. I'm an author. I've just written a book called Dear God, From Your Posh to Egg Breast, about breast cancer. I had breast cancer, which was very severe. And there's a lot of things that I do. I'm a trustee for two charities, one which deals with refugees, the other one which does racial equality. Due to data protection, probably I might not mention their names, but I've got two trustees. I'm also I got an honorary award from the Open University, an honorary master's for my work in the community. And I was given that in 2014 in Poole. So I got an Inspirational Women's Award this year. I've been given an award again when I worked as a diplomat in Mozambique. I was quite young then, by the president of Mozambique, President Chissano, for what they called working life in the community. So I've worked in Belgrade when I was young. Just before the war started, I was a diplomat in the foreign minister of Zimbabwe for 12 years. So I've been there, done most of it.
Yeah, you've done so much.
Country, yeah. This is me.
Yeah,
Just an all.
Same.
so many accolades, so many accomplishments. Yeah, it's amazing.
What would you say was the most rewarding achievement to date?
I can't compare them because they were very, very different in the ways that they were done. Because you find the one in Mozambique, I still had some kind of privilege. I was working as a diplomat, and I tried to integrate a lot. And I wrote a piece about how to be a maid in the office. And the way I used to work as a diplomat, about trying to get in touch with the local community and also working as a diplomat, putting that line in between. So the secretariat of that work is the one that gave me that award. The privilege was that I managed to dance with the president, so that was quite an honor for me. Wow. The other ones are really, I think they are humanitarian in the sense that I'm a humanitarian activist. So those are the really things that really touch my life and what defines me. Like the one for Open University was about how I came in this country, started from scratch, worked with refugees for a long time, trying to do community voluntary work for quite a long time, and trying to implement the fact that refugees, when they come in this country through education, they can achieve their dreams in any other aspect if they're given the platform. So I was driving that agenda, and I'm still driving that agenda, that the platform to everything is just give the education, and that gives somebody the platform to manage and prosper in the way that they want to do. So the one that I got for the Inspirational Women in Reading this year, again, it has to do with a lot of things that I do in Reading, including working with women, especially from the refugee community, and just doing a lot of other work, simple work, trying to racial harmonize things within our town in Reading.
Yeah, amazing. What would you say is like your main driving force in life or in all these things?
I don't know. Many of my friends say I've always been like that. But when you're growing up, you don't realize you're like that until at a stage where you are actualizing yourself. Like the Maslow's law, they say you actualize yourself. You get to a point where you're saying, you know what, I can't compromise to define who I am. And I remember in 1979, me and my brother hitchhiked in a bus to go to a rally. I was 14 years then, to go to a political rally in Harare from Bulawayo. That's about 465 kilometers away. And we went to that rally, and it was amazing to just be there and get a free ride, get free food with young people and come back again. So some of the things have always been there, but I didn't realize that it's always been there, and trying to make my voice heard. In my book, I also write about how one of the ambassadors, when I was working in Belgrade, tried to have inappropriate relationship with me. I might put it in quotes, and I refused that. By then, I was still very young, no children, caliber, coming from Africa, still whitewashed by the African sun, not knowing anything else besides being a Bulawayo girl. So I refused to have that, and I suffered through that. I was sent home before my 3-year term came to an end. So within 1.5 years, I was called names and all these kind of things, but I fought for myself, and it takes a courage to fight within systems of politics and still manage. Yeah, so those are things that I think I had the tendency to do. And although I had to sit in front of a panel of a foreign minister and all the CIOs asking me questions and all these other things, I still stood up that I could not do something that was not to my calling just because I wanted to be working in that environment. So I think I had it all the time. So then I was 23 years old, and I think those things have been happening. Yeah.
Definitely. I was going to ask, because when you've obviously been involved in politics for a lot of time, and I was going to ask, obviously being a woman, you kind of explained there, but that was one of the questions, how you think that's affected your career, because it seems like politics is a bit of a man's world, even in 2020, and you've been in this game for a long time. So how do you feel like that's impacted you, and what advice would you maybe give to women who are trying to get more involved in politics, but maybe struggle because of it being a bit of a man's world?
I think most of the time, these things, unless we keep on having the voice heard without subjugating it, it will always be happening, because I remember patriarchy has been going on since time immemorial. So we cannot say anything. If you young ladies read books by Hook Bell, she talks about how patriarch systems have been working within the sectors of even the Black community itself, where the Black men also subjugate the Black woman, but also on top of those levels, there's the white man and the white woman subjugating the Black woman. And we still have to, so between these hierarchies, we are actually at the bottom. We are suffocating. We can't breathe, actually. So we have to try and get the place to breathe and keep on talking, besides being suffocated. So you find I was a civil servant in working, but things are always on the side of men. You are the one who made him do that. He's not the one that did that because he's a married man and he can't do such things. You are the one who made him feel like that. You are the one who did such things. Actually, he didn't do such things. He didn't try to do something, so you didn't have to be doing what you did to cause a lot of havoc. And I was given a nickname called Mike Tyson because I actually was trying to push him away from what he was trying to do. So all these things are stereotypes that we've carried on as women. And we've seen our generation of our mothers doing that. I'm currently involved in politics in the UK, something which is taken out of context because I'm an African, one, born in Africa. Secondly, I've been here for 18 years. And do I choose to get involved in both places? I'm here with my children. I know my children are going to be here for a long time. And I'm here, I'm living here. Everything that I'm doing right now, sitting with you, is political. How we are talking is generated from. So how can I influence those principles of humanitarian without looking at color or anything? Because I'm married to a white person also. So trying to have that voice is to have a thick skin. One person said you need to have a thick skin. And I think they were right, despite how the context of how they said it. But it is trying to have a thick skin and keep the voice going, because the voice will come out as one angry Black woman. You know the narrative. You are an angry Black woman, whether you're a BME, an Asian, or Black, you're angry most of the time. But why am I not supposed to be angry when I see a lot of subjugated oppression, discrimination, and all these kind of things? So how do I make myself heard? Many young people feel that they can't be bothered because nothing changes. But if you look historical, Rosa Parks, you look at where I come from in Zimbabwe, the people who started the real war, Nehanda, fought against the colonization and was killed by the British in the late 19th century. She was a woman, and they've been going on. So giving up doesn't help in any way, whether you're white, Black, or anything. You need, as a woman, to have the voice made, magnified, make a real noise. Don't worry about the stereotypes. They'll never go away. Yeah. You can be called the B word. Normally, as women, we are called that most of the time, which is something you just say, tell yourself, well, I'd rather be that than to keep quiet. You know, those are the things that will drive you, the force of that, because you're taking a space where men occupy most of the time. So they feel a lot of it. As you can see, Kamel now in America, she's been nominated as the vice president. But look at the B word which is going on, the narrative that is going, just to make sure that she doesn't get anyway. Look at Diana Abbott here, how she's been suffering through a lot of racialism. And if you check, a lot of racism that comes out mainly comes from men and other women. A lot of women also would do that. So let's not just say it's a man thing, but it's also a women thing that we need to be aware. And one analogy that I want to put up on this narrative is that one person in Netherlands, when I went for a conference, said about women, she says, we are like crabs in a basket. You know, when you go and harvest them, you bring them. The ones on top want to breathe all the time and have the fresh air and live happily ever. But the ones at the bottom are also struggling to come up and say, can you let us a little bit and come up so that we can breathe and go back again, or whatever, change places and all that, or help me to get up. But you find in a harvest of a bag of crabs, the ones at the bottoms, you find that they're the ones that die by the time you reach wherever you are because of that. So women also, we need to look at all those things, dynamics that happen.
Definitely, we need to support each other a lot more.
Yeah. It's a lot of internalized misogyny though. It's like we uphold the patriarchy because it's everywhere and that's all you've known. And it's a lot easier to think of each other as the enemy as opposed to realize it's a system. No matter how hard we work until we change the system. Like you said, Alice, we're all crabs in the bucket.
And we're at the bottom as Black women, so it's really tough. I know you briefly touched on it earlier. You said you're in an interracial relationship. Would you like to comment on that and how it works, you know, with such racism in the UK and the struggles that you have to face on a daily basis? Okay.
Yeah, I also had an interview the other day on Thursday about this and about a month ago, because due to Black Lives Matter, these things have really surfaced. So many people haven't been talking about it. And it's the same issue. It's very difficult, but I believe that love is love. Despite who you are, color doesn't matter, because there's no way color is seen as love. Love just comes from the heart. And people just think that as a Black person, you are actually privileged to be in love with a white person because you don't deserve it. So these are the kind of stereotypes that come out unconsciously or consciously, I don't know. But these are the kind of stereotypes that come out. And for us also, Black people, talking about those in Africa, they always think, wow, you got a white person, you know, because we've been suppressed and colonized for too long that we find that white privilege is very important. My husband, when he goes to Zimbabwe, is held at high esteem. Everybody opens the door, everybody serves him, everybody does everything for him. You would think that when I'm here, everybody does the same, but when I'm here, everybody shuts the door on me and him. So it happens the other way. There they say, oh, in our language you call murungu, no, everything is highly esteemed, and yet it's the minority. Probably one person in a whole village who is white, but here I can be one Black person in his village in Lincolnshire, and everybody's stereotyping me, they're shutting the door on me. So those are the narratives we have to deal with. And like yesterday, we went to a cafe outside Reading, and we got the small community cafe. We wanted to go promote local businesses and all that. We got there. We had phoned before we went there, and my husband spoke to them and said, hey, we're fully booked, but you can sit outside. We got there, sorry, we are fully booked. We look in the garden, there's 2-3 people outside, and we're thinking, okay, that's fine. And they walk away. And for me as a Black person, the first thing that comes into my mind, that's it. Besides them actually being fully booked, maybe, my husband, the first question he asks is, is it because we are Black? Because that's the normal thing. We're so used to it. We walk out, but it upsets our day, and we left. Although the woman, we later wrote to the woman, and she explained we were busy, it was difficult, and all those things. But what comes into your mind as a Black person, because you've seen it for too long, is that he had phoned, he's got a white man's voice. He is saying, oh, come, you can sit in the garden. We appear. That's the thing, besides it being racial. But we are so used to it, we've bought into it so much that it has become embedded in us to feel okay with being discriminated. But you young people, do you think it is okay?
No.
Not at all.
No, I think as young people, I saw a like poster at one of the protests that was like, you've messed with the last generation. And I think for like years and years and generations, like when I speak to my mum about this, and she speaks about her experiences growing up in a predominantly white area, being a mixed race person, woman of colour, and what she had to deal with. And then I just think of all the things that we've had to deal with as Black people. Now it's really like enough is enough. And I think we've protested and we've spoken about this for so long. And I remember being at protests in 2016 and it kind of fading. And I really, really think this time around, or I hope this time around, we actually see real change, not just like rallies for a few weeks and protests, but people wanting to see change. And I think the difference is that white people or other non-Black people are just as passionate this time around. I think for a long time, it's just been Black people kind of screaming. And often when I used to say things, I'd get, oh, you're just playing the race card. And then you kind of get silenced because it's like, you don't want to be that Black person who's playing the race card. But now I'm seeing more and more white people, I guess, I don't know, sympathizing, understanding, trying to kind of see things from our point of view, and also speaking up and standing for us as well. So yeah, I'm hopeful, optimistically, cautiously optimistic, I guess, that for our generation, things are going to change, and we can be the change for future generations as well.
To add on to Naima's point there, I think what makes our generation different to other generations beforehand is because we feel like we have the right to. if we are born in this country, we feel like we have every right as much as them. And I think for our parents, there was this caution. You have to be quite cautious of not overstepping, but we have no qualms in overstepping because we were born here. We deserve to live here. We deserve all the rights that they deserve. And I think that's going to push us a little bit more forward than previously, because we're like, yeah, no, this is us. You have to accept it.
And I think,
I think you're right in what you're saying also. Go ahead, you were saying something.
yeah, I was just going to say, we also have to be unapologetically radicalized, essentially, because it is a radical problem, and only by, I think our generation actually thinks we can change the world, and that is why we're going to change the world, because there's no other choice. But yeah, it will take a lot of constant movement, though. It's not like Naima said, it can't be just a 1 week, or when, like Jacob Blake has just been shot a few days ago and he's now paralyzed, and that's going to spark outrage. But we don't want just outrage, we need momentum and actual action on top of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. How do you feel that for young people most of the time, like you are here, you were born here, most of you. Because most of the examples that we have, we need to build up more examples that are from here. We have mentorship that comes across the Atlantic. Many young people look at people in America, that's their Black heroes. This is Black, but they are from America. What do you think is the most important thing that we can build up here? And you start saying, you know what, we need to have something here, because there's a lot of high population of Black people in this country. And you need to be building that so that you don't look across the Atlantic and just come up with stories of racism here. And you also come up with people that you can look upon in here as mentors, as people that you actually think, okay, they are here. Let's have a story about here. Because many people say racism, yes, racism is there, but how different is it from the UK? Because for me, my experience of here was that it's very much not as covert here in the UK. So you don't see it. You can't go and complain in an institute where I used to work, and I could see these things were racialized. That, oh, I've been discriminated. They'll say, no, but you had the interview. You were called for the interview. You didn't just make it by 0.05% of the marks. So there's nothing wrong about that. You do something and you think, this is actually racism? But then they don't say that, because it's quite a word that nobody wants to be labeled about, to become a racist. And they always say, no, but we gave you a chance. It's like a tokenism. You're given these little things, but they're not fully given. It's taken away in certain terms that you can't even complain to say it's racist. So how do you feel young people experience those kind of things within the spaces they live?
I think
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I think for me, like you said, it's quite frustrating, because what you're explaining, I guess, are like all different types of microaggressions that we experience in education, in the workplace, and then often then when you try and maybe speak out against it, you get gaslighted, and like you then start to wonder, like, am I crazy? Like, am I not experiencing this? Like, and so it's really frustrating, but again, as a person, I'm quite optimistic anyway. So all I can hope is that the education that I'm seeing coming out, and the use of social media for social change and justice and stuff like that, and hoping that people actually receive it well. But as a young person, it is really frustrating. And I think, like Samia said, what does help is, like, I was born here as well. And so when people say things like the more extreme racism, things like go back to your own country, it's like,
Right here.
This is actually my country. This is the only country I've ever known. So it doesn't quite have the same impact as maybe it had on like previous generations, where they actually did come over in adulthood and stuff like that. But yeah, I think racism in Britain is so sly.
Yeah, it's so undercover and coded.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, you can't even call it out, because like you might be in the workplace and someone says something, but then you don't know if they're actually being racist, or you don't know if the reason that they said that is because you're black.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about this the other day and yesterday actually, saying that there needs to be like some sort of training whereby like when you're inducted into the workplace, you know how to like call out these things, or you know who to go to if you hear certain jokes or like, you know, sarcasm and stuff like that, so that when, as a young person going into the workplace, you don't feel like you're just going mad because you've already been told, okay, these things can happen at work, so this is how to deal with it when it does, rather than you having to go back to your friends and say, oh my god, this happened, blah blah blah, and then you're all just in shock. And I think for us, personally for me, when I've had those experiences, in the moment I don't know how to handle it. It's only in hindsight. So I think we need to learn how
being able to preempt it.
Preempting it and like being equipped in advance to actually
deal with
call it out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, go. I was just going to ask Alice a question, because obviously you said you're a mum of 2 adult children, and I know for like a lot of us, we would have had the talk. And the talk not being about, you know, sex education, but actually being a black person growing up in the UK, how to act and different things like that. Do you recall having these conversations with your daughters, or like how to help them navigate themselves in the UK in like a racist society?
You see, the usual talk. My mom's generation never had the talk, so they learned from their mother. So you can't blame them because they don't know any better. So most of the time you find that things like sex was never talked about because it's like a taboo. Are you doing it or you not? You look like you've done it. Are the ones what's wrong with you? You know, like the mood of periods and all that. What's wrong with you? Are you on a period? And it's all those things because they didn't know any better, so they did that. So when you had sex at the end of the day, or whether it was consented or not, you didn't know the difference whether it was consent, because those were the things that were never discussed with you in the first instance, to say, actually, when somebody does this or holds you, you are in the room or wherever you are, and he tries to shuffle you and pull that down your pants, and you feel you don't want to, although even if you're feeling the hormones flaring up, you have a right to refuse. There was no conversations like that. So you were thinking this is love, you're probably doing it because the guy loves you, and you continue doing such things. There's no other way that we were taught because they didn't know any better in that generation of it. I find that also here, the intergenerational thing is happening with the generation of African people that came in their mothers, because it's part of my research. The young people are saying that they think we still live in the world where they lived, but we don't blame them because they don't know any better. But we need to be knowing. We need to know our bodies. We need to know how to handle ourselves. We need to talk about racism. We need to talk about sex. We need to talk about drugs. We need to talk about mental health. All those things are never talked about. There's a boundary. So I'm not saying stereotyping parenting, but it's trying to find that generations as generations move, things should get better, that it's an open discussion. It's in Zimbabwe, we had aunties who could come and intervene and talk about things, but we don't have them here. It's only you, me, and my children. So who do I send them to, ship them to go and have a lecture on sex, on puberty, on hormones, on boys, or getting married? It's me, the only person that can give that one-to-one talk is me. I have 2 girls, and we actually discuss about literally everything. Sometimes they are the ones who actually say, Mom, don't start. When I say, oh, are you pregnant? What's happening here? Did you have that thing? And then they'll say, Mom, stop. But we do talk about that. If you come to the house during the Lloyd Floyd thing, my husband is white, you would think people are fighting here. My children wanted to ask how my husband, who is white, felt about these things. They were emotional. They were in tears. It had mortified them. When they still think 21st century, we can't be going that.
Yeah.
But he can only narrate how he feels. He's an activist. He can't talk for every white person. It is wrong, but they want to have those open debates. They always have those open debates. And my children, when I was young, they were young, I used to carry them, get into the train, go to London, hold the placards, put our sandwich there. They were 5, 9, go there, learn to be a worthy human being in this world. Because one voice can change a lot of things. And you can see with Rosa Parks, with a lot of women, they changed a lot of things. The women who protested in the UK about salaries and everything, and Dagenham, if you've watched the movie, you have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't just be silent. So the parents are the ones that have to teach our children that you will get this kind of the B word, you get these things, you don't belong here, you get all these things. But are you going to close yourself in the cocoon and let this happen again and again, generation to come, unless you put your footprint there and make a difference? You might not achieve the whole thing, but you might also have an impact on other people that might also speak up from where you left. That's what is important. You might not achieve everything right now, but as long as you magnify your voice and start talking about all these things, I think parents need to have those actual conversations with their children, magnified as her. This thing of subjugating the children, saying, oh, you should be grateful, we are here, look at what is happening in Africa or wherever in Asia, people don't have food, don't have anything. Why has that happened that in Africa people don't have food? Have you ever actually found out as a mother why in Africa people are still in severe poverty, in Asia, why there's so much disparity in the world? Why haven't you looked at the systems that have been there for a long time that has made these things to be like that? Not by choice, you see, not by choice. So we have to try and say, Mom, sit down, learn about these things. You see, what I found out is this. You are the ones that have got that learning. You can't actually be told that, oh, in Africa, some people are trying to, like now I hear a narrative of saying, oh, look, they are dying on the boats, on the boats, they are trying to come here to get a better life and you don't appreciate. I'm sorry, we can't accept that. It's not right at all. It hasn't been right for too long. Why are people going through this? The systems have made. It's nothing to do with anything. The structures and systems have continued to do that. So these conversations need to continue despite how uncomfortable our parents or the white people or the Asian people or whoever is looking and thinking, this is very uncomfortable. I'm here, I should keep quiet, otherwise I'll be chucked out. There are laws that are there. They are put in place for that. You might find racism, you might find that, but there are structures, there are things that are there. As much as you were born here, I wasn't born here. My kids were not born here. They've lived here more than they have lived in Zimbabwe. I have lived here for 18 years. I have done a lot of things in this country, probably more than other people who have been born here. Yeah. And this is my country right now. I wake up and I see everything. I pick in my street, I pick litter. I make sure that it's clean. I live according to the law. I'm an abiding citizen. The world is a world. There's no borders. Borders were put by human beings so that they choose where other people are done. This is a human world. Yeah. This is how we live, just like anywhere else. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to say, sorry, I'm speaking a lot, but with the whole, obviously you work with refugee charity, and that's been in the news a lot recently, with lots of refugees kind of fleeing from various different places. And obviously there was that Sudanese boy who unfortunately died. He was 16 years old. And there was a lot of disgusting comments, I think on the Daily Mail, good, like keep the refugees out and all this sort of stuff. What would you say to people like that who make such ignorant comments about refugees?
I actually don't engage with them. It's not about engaging with them. Make sure you do the right thing yourself. Like for myself, I'm going for the legal walk for refugees, 10 kilometers, do the right thing. Because that's the only way you can fight such things. When it comes to racism, do the right thing, fight through the right channels, because you exhaust yourself engaging with such people who have no broader minds than you think. They might be very intelligent people, educated and everything, but can you convince them that this is right or wrong? Until then themselves, they look at how things were. But when it comes to friendships and all that and family, you can't compromise with somebody. Or even if you have a friend on Facebook or Instagram and they put things like that. I don't have friendships like that. I don't want friendships like that. I don't compromise. So you're not my friend if you're going to do that. So I take you out on that. But when it comes to those people that go on the forum and talk about that, it doesn't look at the Syrian boy who was picked, the story of the 3-year-old boy who came, and the world was so shocked about what had happened that they started thinking a lot about refugees. So your work there is not to educate those that don't want to be educated. It's informing those that want to be educated. Do the right things, because refugees are not, who is making those refugees? Let's ask this question. We ask, how do people end up in wars, in countries where there's wars? What has happened? Do people find out really what has happened? Do people find out what has happened in Libya, in Sudan, in Somalia? Who supplies the guns? Where do these guns come from? In Mozambique now, there's insurgents. There's going to be refugees very soon. Who is supplying the guns? What is happening? What's the story behind Congo? Has anybody ever found out a war that has happened for so long? Afghanistan, why is there a war that has happened for so long? Syria, why is that? The surface, the media covers what it wants to cover. But the really stories, we don't look at them. We don't look at how those young boys have crossed the desert from Sudan, walking thousands of miles, sexually abused in Libya, where they are put in places that are not working for nothing. This is modern slavery. Nobody's talking about this. For somebody to just decide to walk thousands of miles in a desert, get to Libya, just running away from something that is not working in the system, there must be something that we could. It's not the surface things that we need to polish up. It's the root cause. What is the root cause of all these systems? So if young people are there, all they need to do is just, you read these people that comment on Daily Mail, there'll always be the Daily Mail reader, the Sun newspaper, the whatever. There's always got, do the right thing. What you can do is just be an activist, go on and do the right things. Be an active, be involved, volunteer in these organizations, make sure that they don't go down, and volunteer and do the right things. There are many people actually in the UK who are doing the right things. I met a woman a week ago from Harrogate, very posh town. She came down to Reading, asked to meet me, and asked how we are working with refugees in Reading and all that. In the nation is wanting to learn how they can do that in Harrogate, a very middle class, whitewashed place, but there are a few refugees there. They are good people. So don't get whitewashed by all this. These systems are the ones that are causing all these things to happen. Unless you read your history of how can a man sit in Libya there, left his village somewhere in Sudan or Somalia, and just wakes up one morning and just picks a bag and says, I'm going to claim benefits in the UK.
Honestly,
It's ridiculous.
for £34, I saw a tweet that goes, nobody crosses the ocean for £34 a week. And honestly, nobody would risk their life for that. It isn't for the benefits. It's for their lives.
It's so ignorant for them to think that.
It's ridiculous.
And I think in the UK, they do like to, like you said, not to get to the root of the issues. Like even when it comes to like knife crime and stuff, they don't look at what's behind all these people's lives who are entering that lifestyle. They're just saying, okay, let's do more stop and search, but you're not actually getting to the root of the problem. And I think that's what they like to do in this country.
Well, we talk about that in the sense of look at the gentrification of what happens when these young people grow up in places that have a lot of systematic poverty. They know that they are not going, even if they get an education, go to A levels, finish, the education, they are not going to get out of the poverty that is happening, which is systematic with gentrification. And we don't talk about those things. We don't talk about, like, I live in a town here where Oxford Road is gentrified in the sense of everything black goes to that side of town. You want to open a business, allocate yourself to Oxford Road. You can't go into town. So if we don't have those real conversations like that, and it's also like many young people are talking about, is environmental gentrification. That's where everything happened. That's where all the trucks pass. That's where everything happened. So unless we look again at the environment, how is it done? When I was growing up in Bulawayo, we used to live what we called across the bridge. The townships were all across the bridge. That's where all the factory smokes, everything that comes from the factory, the wind blows to that side. That's where we lived. That's where we were supposed to know our places. And the white people, where did they live? Across the bridge on the other side. That's where their places were. That's where there's no pollution, there's nothing. They live nicely. If you're seen crossing the bridge when I was growing up or going to the other side, you are a maid or a garden boy. That's it. Father was a messenger. He was on a bike literally all the time. He would bring me half a sandwich, which is left by his boss, who is a white man, to say, oh, Dick, you've got a little girl in your house. I haven't finished my sandwich. Here, take it home.
Wow.
You will cycle back home with that half a sandwich. And I'll see it, and I ran to see my father, to be happy to get that half a sandwich and come back with it. So you lived in that space that you were given. That was your space. You made sure that you kept exactly what this generation are saying. You know your place. You know you occupy this place. You are grateful. You are given a company house. My father worked for the railways. They were given small company houses. Even if we had 5 brothers, we lived in there, crowded as it was. It didn't matter. We should be grateful we had that. So this is generational. I should teach my children to be grateful here when they are here. But that's not the way it should continue. Why can't they dream? Why can't they dream on that?
Yeah.
I think language is very symbolic. It's like, I think that's how our society is ran, that there are people at the top and they have their leftovers and they give it to us and they think that's charitable. But the real charity is to say, no, we eat together. Not, this is not the sandwich I'm not going to eat, I'm going to give it to you. It's like we'll all sit at the same table and we'll eat. And I think even the mere fact that you talk about you were grateful for the other half of the sandwich is also symbolic. It's that's what we actually are. We are very grateful for these big the small things, but we shouldn't be. We should be like, no, we're sitting with you to eat the sandwich together. And I think that will be the next step for us as
fighting for a seat at the table.
Yeah, and I think that's why we need more representation, like how we were talking about earlier. Like the more examples you see of people who look like us at the top, then we'll be able to dream, like you said.
But then also, if you look, even I'm a candidate for a weekly ward as a councillor for next year's elections. I was due to go in May for that. But I'm thinking quite a lot of things to say. Actually, this is a way of not only for myself, but the young people to see all those things and also think, you know what, you can't just be saying, oh, I'm not going to be involved, or say, oh, voting for this party is as good as voting for that. It's the lesser evil, and balance that, and you stop voting. Many Black people don't go and vote, but you're not exercising your right at the end of the day, because you need to be voting for things to change. You need to be looking, you need to be in the politics. Everything, Zoom, what we are doing now is politics. How the prices are priced, everything. What you're wearing there, whether it comes from China, the text that comes from it, India, wherever it comes, it's politics. So your influence on politics is unmeasurable. If you pick up the crumbs, you're not sitting on the table and making those decisions that are being done, then how are you going to make the influence that you really think is going to happen? You don't have to be really inside the politics. Join it and be a person that influences the politics. Be there. I'll give you an example of things that I dared to do at my age. While I was doing a master's in politics some years ago in the country, I actually had the guts to apply to go and work in the government as a civil servant in London. And one of the places I wanted to work was either in health and social care or welfare or foreign affairs, because I'd worked there. I applied for that. I went through first, second, third, fourth, fifth. The fifth one is a whole day at Whitehall where you meet with other candidates who have been selected. The last one is the 50 group. 9 to 5, you are there. You know how many of the young people that were there who came from Oxford and Cambridge, and how many blacks? You'd ask me how many blacks were there.
Just you?
I was the only one, older person again. And some young people came to me and asked me a question and said, are you a carer for one of the for somebody here, you know, because when somebody with disability or mental health or something, or with dyslexia, you can come with somebody to write down or help you. They said, no, I'm going to be here for the whole day for the interview. So those are the kind of things. By the end of the day, when I finished my last interview, I knew I wasn't going to make it because the person who was interviewing me was doodling while he was interviewing me.
Wow. So disrespectful.
So I left that after 5 of those interviews. It's called the civil servants. Is it civil servant stream fast track employment? I walked out. They're trying to get BME people in the system to work, and they still do up to now. But what happened? I failed by 0.058%. 0.058%. But I hadn't given up on that. So I had gone through the 5 stages. Was it 4 or 5 stages? And just go in there, be there, whether you know, like I'm saying that I failed, whether you know you're going to fail, be there and be there. But we can't go on ticking the boxes of racial equality, where they call equal opportunities. That's how the stratification is. Or we interviewed one black person, a woman who is this age, so we are doing well. We've got 3 of them that we have interviewed. That's how the system works. If you don't know, that's how it works. They can't complain because we are interviewing them, but they're not passing through because they're not good enough. So are we going to be made to feel not good enough? I refuse to say that with my children. You are good enough. So keep on applying, keep on getting those interviews in places that you wouldn't. My eldest daughter got a job somewhere. We were there rallying for her, my eldest daughter, and said, no, this is your place. You have a right to work there, and we're going to pray about it, and you have to put yourself. And she got it, because you have to believe that you're worth something to be able to be in those places that many people think I can't be.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
They have a good mum to look up to. Definitely. So one of the questions I want to ask, obviously you're doing and you've done so much, and in terms of your activism and for charity, how do you feel like because obviously you said you prayed on it with your eldest daughter, how do you feel like your faith in God has helped your strength throughout all of this and all the challenges you've been through as well?
I wouldn't compromise. I wrote yesterday, I think, on Instagram, and the other day, Friday, on Instagram and Facebook. I don't compromise on my spirituality and my health. Those 2 things I can't compromise on. Like today, I woke up, meditation. While I'm still in bed, meditation, prayer. And while I was running late for you, I went for a jog with my husband who runs. I don't run, but I jog. I don't compromise on those things. Without that deep Christianity in me, I'm not saying I'm a perfect Christian. I'm just saying that my spirituality holds me together. I've got sin, I've got everything, but I wouldn't have lived. This book tells you a lot about that, because what I did with my book was every journal I wrote every day. I went to hospital. I'll say, oh, dear God, I'm tired. I can't wake up. I just took those journals, lots of them, and put it into a book. because I was talking to God. I was angry. I was all that. I had a lot of things that happened at that time. That's why I say supporting each other as women is very important. I wasn't supported by Black women from my own country during the time I was here and I was ill. They are the ones that really, really broke my heart in so many ways when I was ill. But then I had a lot of other people, white people. That's why I say it's not a black and white thing. My godmother of my children is white British. Lots of people from Amnesty International helped me through the time when I was ill. Most of the people in refugee organizations, my workmates, white mates, helped me through everything that I went through. So I'm grateful to have had those because I didn't have relatives in this country. So those were the things that are quite important. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you talk to your children about sex and all this, I know in African culture, they say it compromises your Christianity, some things that you can't do. I believe I believe love is love. LGBT people, I'm a Christian, I have no problem. I've got my brother's children who are gay. I don't believe that God doesn't love you when you are LGBT. I believe God is love, and love is God. That's it. Some Christian people might say, no, that's very wrong. You don't see how it is. But I just believe God is love in whatever circumstances you are. And God will love you with your torn pieces. And it has been very, very important for us. We used, like now my daughter is back in London. We have this thing that we bring up subjects and we discuss. We used to do that during lockdown. It kept us going. Every Sunday, one of my daughters or myself or my husband will pick up a subject, controversial as it is, and then we find verses and we discuss and we say how we feel and about those things. Our journey from the beginning. How did you think, like, for example, God was there when you were growing up? How did you feel your spirituality? How do you compromise such things and all that? So all those discussions, and then we look at what the Bible says and expand from that. So it plays a big role in our lives every day. It doesn't necessarily mean those who do, I mean, in a court, I would say spirituality is the backbone for everybody. Whatever you believe in, your spirituality will carry you through. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're whatever. Your spirituality is what makes you. It's your soul. It's in you. It's your soul. It gives you a rope to climb on and all that. I don't Bible bash to people to say, this is Michelle, the Bible says you are a sinner and all that. We discuss things and all that. We come to a compromise of how we deal with things. And children like to have that voice also. So I make sure they have their voice to talk about things. I'm not a perfect mom, but I need them to have that voice of say, I don't agree with you, mom. I don't think that's what the Bible, and I'm still finding myself. You know, everybody says, my youngest says, I'm still finding myself. So my oldest said, I found myself. So every child goes through that journey. You give them the space to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite clearly, Christianity played a very important role in writing your book, and I'm sure our audience would love to know where to get your book from. So could you give some details on where they can buy your book from?
Yeah, my book is called Dear God, From Your Posh to Egg Breast. You know, why I talked about posh to egg is because women, we worry too much about breasts. And, my breast, I need to enlarge them. I need the right bra. I need what? I need to be seen by men, and all these kind of things that we compromised. But having a posh to egg breast showed me that I had a mastectomy, and it saved my life. So a breast is it useful? Ask yourself, is it really, really useful? Yes, it's useful when you breastfeed your child and all these other things, but is it useful in the end? So my book, that's why I called it Posh to Egg. And Dear God was the narrative of writing to God every day that I did. So it's quite a book that is all these other, and I lost my brothers within a space of 13 years. I lost my mom, my dad, my 4 brothers, and my late husband, my first husband. So 7 people in 13 years to cope with that and on top of cancer. I think I've had my share of life. And I can't compromise how I want to live daily, as much as possible, every day. So that was a compromise. You can get it on Amazon, Waterstone, order it. Amazon is there. You can get it. I think it has sold more in America than it did here. I think because America, they almost say it's a Christian country in a sense. And many people have bought it more than they have bought it in the UK. But they still, it's not about God as in God in the sense of Christianity. It's about seeing how somebody goes through difficulties and still can get married and have a life, a fulfilling life. Young people, they can read it and see that no matter what difficulties you are going through, you can always there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There is always, hold on to something. Find the right friends around you that really cheer you and actually tell you, put on your Bridget Jones pants and get up and go and do things and be impactful in the world. That's all I can say, be impactful. Whether you write a book or you don't, or you're an activist alone in the street, or you're picking litter or doing something, be impactful, change somebody's life. That's all I can say. Change somebody's life.
Definitely agree. It can even be, it doesn't have to always be big things. It can be small ways.
Yeah.
I wanted to also find out what's next for you, like in the future. What do you see yourself getting involved in, achieving? What are your goals?
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I'll be told to go back, bring my birth certificate, find all these other things. I'm very happy with where I am. I'm looking forward to finishing my PhD by next year. I've told myself I'm not going to work in academia. I've had a bad experience in the past 3 years, and it's one place I don't want to compromise my activism and who I am just to be in academia, like working, teaching in university. So I want to take myself in where I am. I'm a grassroots person. I'm a person who likes to be in the community. By next year, cross fingers, if I get elected as a councillor, these are the things that I want to do. Grassroots, work with people in my ward, see the things that matter to human beings, be in touch with the human being and do things that I want. Right now, I've got a lot of things we have to be doing about refugees because the world is hurting again on refugees. Yeah. The world is hurting again on Black people. So we need to be working hard. My husband says, you've got a lot on your plate. I feel this is my you know, like it is who I am. I can't change that. I've tried very much to close the bucket and say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to protest. I'm not going, but you see yourself, you can know who you are when you're attracted to the same things perpetually all the time. And that's how you know that your God-given purpose is. And my God-given purpose is there. It's not that it's not about me. It's about seeing that the human being, whether white, green, purple, is still a human, treated like a human being. As much as we treat animals with a dog here, Z, we wouldn't compromise on Z being beaten, being thrown in the water or anything. This is how we need to treat each other. The world has been made to have borders because of the people that were greedy, not human beings. Human beings used to move from one place to the other. If you see the nomads long ago, you would stay wherever you wanted to stay. You build your territory. The world has got so much richness we can share. Poverty is just a word. That is 2005, Make Poverty History was done in Scotland. We protested, we did everything. 2020, we're still talking about poverty. We're still talking about little boats crossing, people trying to make some way. We're still talking about Black Lives Matter. From 401 years, when all these things happen, surely, honestly, we need to move from these things and start talking about making sure we share with each other. Yeah,
definitely. Wow.
That's a lovely note to end on.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Thank you so much for taking the time to go through everything with us. I feel like I wish I could have seen your life through like a bird's eye view, everything you've gone through, experience it. But thank you for sharing obviously a piece of yourselves and giving the advice you have given. And I'm really looking forward to what you do next, because you have so much passion.
And vote for you.
Yeah, and vote for you and advocate for you, definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to talk to young people. My research is about young people, so I enjoy to know a lot about what young people, and just to motivate each other. I learn a lot from young people. My children, I've learned a lot of things. I've learned languages that I'd never known about, gaslighting, all these other things that are funny. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is how you learn. I learn a lot from your generation also. And I want to learn. I'm not saying I've got a wealth of experience. I'm saying the wealth of experience comes from young and old together. So we learn to each other for the better of the commonality of one race, one human being. That's it.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Peace.